Say hello.
Hello.
2 p.m. Wednesday, January 25th. Conference room. Let's see. Hi.
Are you Gina?
Yes, I am.
Hi, Chris Shaw.
Nice to meet you, sir. And this is my cousin, Tim Poisson.
Hi, nice to meet you. No, please have a seat.
Thank you. Would you close the door, please? Thank you very much for calling the meeting.
Sure.
May I ask, what is your goal today? What is
Just
your...
to get your side of the story.
Okay.
We got your email, but I'd prefer to get it directly from you.
Okay. It's very convoluted, but it's very simple. I have not had hardly any interactions with Augusta Police Department prior to September 1st
Okay.
of 2011,
Okay.
which was the date that Jack Alibertian moved into the building.
Now, you and he live in the same building?
Yes.
Okay.
He lives in the bottom floor, and I live upstairs.
Okay.
The interesting thing about that is Mr. Alibertian used to live in my apartment.
Well, and then he moved
Correct.
just to get to the bottom floor.
Well, actually, he moved out of the building altogether
Okay.
in 2010, just before I moved in. He lived in my apartment until January 2010. I had contact with the landlord late December to lease the apartment. We entered into an agreement, signed early January. Mr. Alibertian moved out middle of January. I moved in last week of January.
Okay.
At that time, there was a male and female married couple with a little child living below me in the first apartment, which Mr. Alibertian is now living. I cohabitated with them for over a year with no problems, no incidents, no police intervention. It was very peaceful. It was pleasant.
Okay.
They moved out for their reasons. A tenant moved in June. She moved out because the landlord's neglect in end of August. Alibertian moves in September 1st. September 1st, he threatened to use chemical gas in the building while I was in the building, flea foggers.
Okay.
He told me he was going to do this within 30 minutes. He didn't ask me when would be a good time. That was the first incident of assault. That was the day he moved in.
Okay.
I complained to the landlord via writing as well as voicemail and said, you need to evict this person because he's a danger and a threat. And I was also, through my relationship with the Paquettes, the male and female couple who I lived above for the year,
This is at a different location?
No, this was the same location.
Same location?
Yes, because...
The one with the children?
Correct.
Okay.
Because they lived in Unit 1 for about 5 or 6 years consistently. And they lived there in Unit 1 during the same time that Alibertian lived upstairs where I'm living now.
Okay, so he moved out and moved back in?
Correct. He moved out of the building altogether for about 2 years and then moved back.
Okay.
He's now in their apartment. Well, when they lived there, they and I had a very friendly relationship, and they told me about their experiences while they lived in the building with Mr. Alibertian.
Mm-hmm.
And their exact words were, living in this house with Jack was a living hell.
Okay.
Okay? He is a violent man. He is a disrespectful man. He does not respect the law, as evidenced by his guilty verdict of violating the protection order from December of 2011.
Okay.
Okay.
Which protection order was this?
He was arrested by Kennebec County Sheriff's Department on August 16th, 2011, and he was arraigned in November. He had a failure to appear, and then he had a second hearing on December 20th,
Okay.
where he entered, I believe he entered a guilty plea, and he's been adjudged a $300 fine for violating protection order on December 20th.
Who's the protection order against though?
A former girlfriend of his.
Okay, so it has nothing to do
Has nothing to do with me.
Okay.
But it's evidence of his disrespect of the law, and it's evidence of his violence, and it's evidence of his blatant violation of people's civil rights, okay? So that's,
But he was adjudicated at that point.
he's been
He paid
adjudicated.
his fines and...
Well, his fine is
Done his time
pending.
and-
Well, I don't know about that, but I went out to the court's pay ticks website to look at the fine violations and whatnot, and I put in his docket number. You can put in a case number.
And a pay tax?
Pay ticks or inform me. Inform me, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you can put in a docket number, and it will come up with the final adjudication,
Okay.
or whatever adjudication it is. The adjudication on his court, on his docket is guilty, $300 fine. Whether he has a payment arrangement is beside, I have no idea, it's not my
That was
interest.
the verdict and that was his...
Correct.
So that's out of the way.
That's out of the way.
Okay.
However, on September 30th, just 29 days after he moved in, he
Okay.
threatened me violently with bodily harm, and I have brought that police report with me. And he does admit in his police report that he did threaten me. He changed what he said to Christopher Gray, Officer Gray, but he did admit that he was going to have, Gina stated that blank started yelling at her about her being evicted, and that blank could call some friends that would come take care of her. That is a violent threat. That is a threat of violence and harm. Someone would come and take care of me. Okay, fine. That's what Officer Gray put in his police report. That is not what Mr. Oliverian said to me. What Mr. Oliverian said to me was, "You want to fuck with me, bitch? You want to fuck with me just because you got an eviction notice? You think I had anything to do with it? Well, I didn't."
Where's this from?
And then he goes on, he says, "Yeah, you fucking ugly bitch. You want to stand there and look at me like that? I'll have someone kick your fucking ass and your daughter's ass too. No worries, because I'll be out of here soon
Right,
enough
where
anyway."
is this from?
This is an affidavit that I submitted in rebuttal of Officer Gray's
Okay.
police report, and it was submitted to Chief Reservoir. It is a notarized sworn affidavit.
Okay. And I gotta tell you, Gina, the biggest reason I'm here today is for the incident that took place the
I
other
understand
day.
that, but this is connected to it. All right? This is
Okay.
connected to it because Mr. Oliverian has been using the police department to harass me, as well as his music, which has been the provocative factor in the police coming to my home.
Okay.
Okay? Mr. Oliverian has his speakers attached to his walls.
Mm.
Because of his prior knowledge of this building and his prior experience living in my apartment,
Okay.
he is fully aware of the nature of this building and how it amplifies music and noise.
So when you have a complaint of noise, do you give us a call to say, look, I've got an issue here? And
I most certainly do so.
okay.
I have a number of times.
So if I research, I'm going to find all those calls that you've made?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely, sir. As a matter of fact, I have many of those calls on recording, in addition to noise incidents that I did not call the police because of the previous experiences that I've had with the police department.
Okay.
Okay? My previous experiences prior to this incident that we hear about today were all unsuccessful with the exception of one. The exception is Donald Whitten. He arrived on a service call on a Saturday afternoon and agreed with me that the music was a nuisance and it was disturbing the peace and it was
It was
unlawful.
unreasonable.
It was unreasonable, yes.
Okay.
And this was 1 o'clock in the afternoon on a Saturday.
Mhm.
Despite Officer Whitten's agreement with the unreasonableness of the noise, the other service calls, for the same exact reason,
Mhm.
were discounted as not unreasonable.
Okay.
And Mr. Oliverian was told specifically, at least by Carly Smith, and by other officers, I'm not sure exactly who, but I know Officer Smith told me specifically that she told Mr. Oliverian that it was not unreasonable, despite Officer Smith standing in my apartment
Mhm.
upstairs, experiencing the music and the disturbance for herself.
Okay.
So the culmination of these service calls has been a harassment specifically perpetrated by Oliverian against me, okay? He's put his music on knowing that it's disrupting me.
Mhm.
I call the police for assistance. He knows they're not going to help me. He's downstairs laughing at me, and I can hear him laughing at me,
Mhm.
okay? So the night of January 18th, the call that we're here about today,
Mhm.
prior to the officers arriving at my door, it was quiet in the building, and because of the nature of the house, I overheard Mr. Oliverian talking on the telephone
Okay.
to one of his friends. This is a common occurrence. I heard Mr. Oliverdian say, I don't know why she's taking pictures and videos of me, but it's really, really bothering me. And I need to deal with this in a way that I've not dealt with it before. Okay, this is what he said. And I'm thinking to myself, what does he mean by that? Deal with it in a way I've never dealt with it before. Well, if I know his history is violent. So if he's going to deal with it in a way that he's never dealt with it before, that means he's going to do it the opposite. So what's he going to do? He's going to call the cops probably. 30 minutes later, the cops knock on my door. I wasn't expecting any company, so I was wondering who's knocking at my door. I bring my recorder down to the door, and I open the door, and if you listened to the MP3 audio that I attached to the email address, to the email, that is a raw, unedited, it's not been touched, not been cut or anything. That's everything that happened. I opened my door, I saw a dark-haired young gentleman on my left. I believe he was the one that initiated the door knocking.
That would be Officer Druin?
I didn't recall his name.
Young guy?
Young guy.
Tall, slender?
Yeah.
Yeah, not bald.
Correct.
But he had hair.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
He initiated the call. He was on my left. Officer Cloutier was on my right, and he was standing back behind the other gentleman. What was the first gentleman's name?
Druin?
Druin.
Yeah.
Officer Druin asked me what he asked me on the tape, you know, why are you taking pictures? And I explained why I explained the reason I was taking pictures is because I wanted them to know that I don't have an issue with my neighbor.
Okay.
My neighbor is caught in the middle. He really truly is. He was moved in here specifically by the landlord, and my understanding from some of the conversations I've overheard him have, the landlord made him move into this building, took him and forced him out of his previous apartment.
And moved him into your building?
And moved him into my building.
Have you spoken with your landlord about him and the problems you're having?
I absolutely have, sir. I've sent him emails. We're in the middle of an eviction battle right now because my cousin here, who's Mr. Cason, and I did a safety inspection of the building on September 29th. Mr. Cason is a independent construction remodeling
contractor.
Thank you. And we went downstairs and knocked on Mr. Aliverdian's apartment and said, may we go into the cellar? And he said, sure. And he invited us in and he
That's
gave
the
us...
only access to the cellar?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, through apartment one.
Correct. So Mr. Oliverdian invited us in, and he gave us free access to his apartment. He showed me the interior decorating that he did in the second bedroom, and we talked, and Jack says, I don't want any problems with you, I just want to get along. I said, great, fantastic. Can we go down to the cellar? Yeah, sure. Well, as soon as we got near the cellar door, Tim's like, I smell oil. Very strong
Raw smell of raw oil.
So the two of us went into the cellar, and we inspected the conditions of the cellar, and it was dangerous and hazardous. We reported our findings to Jack, Mr. Aliverdian. We then left the building. This was at about 2:30 in the afternoon or so. We left the building. Tim left. I went and I knocked on Jack's door around 5 p.m. and I said, have you spoken with Royce yet? He says, yeah, I just called him and told him about the oil leak. I said, you did? He says, yeah. I said, what did he say? He says, he told me never to let you in the basement again. He says, he told me specifically, you're not allowed in the basement ever again.
That's what Aliverdian said about the owner of the building?
Correct.
Okay.
And I said, well, that's interesting. I said, would you give me a written statement of what your conversation was? He says, sure, I'll do that. Well, at this time, his son, Joseph Rossi, was living with him, 23 years old, okay? I left Jack's apartment at 5 p.m., went to my apartment. This was the 28th, the evening of the 28th. The evening of the 29th. 29th. No, it was the 28th. It was the 28th because the 29th he came to fix my toilet.
Right.
Okay, so the 28th we discovered the oil. I asked for a statement. He said yes. I went home. The following morning I was speaking with Tim on Skype because we had important stuff to do. At 10:30 Jack knocks on my door to fix the wax ring around my toilet that was leaking sewer water into his kitchen.
Okay.
I let him up into my apartment, and I asked him about the statement that I asked him to write. He says, you know what, I thought about it, and I've spoken with my son, and my son reminded me that Royce has evicted people for complaining before.
This is Aliverdian, right?
This is Aliverdian saying this about my landlord, Royce Watson.
Okay, now is he also the maintenance guy for the building?
Aliverdian is not an official maintenance guy, but he does do maintenance for
Okay.
the landlord de facto, okay? Just because it needs to be done. And he
Right.
said, in Tim's presence, stuff needs to be done, I gotta do it, because Royce ain't gonna do it.
Okay.
So he's in my apartment, and I said, are you going to write that statement for me? He says, well, I thought about it, and I spoke with my son, and my son reminded me that that Royce has evicted people for retaliating before, and he'll do it again. He says, I can't afford to lose my home. I said, well, Jack, you're already involved now. He says, well, I don't want to be involved. I said, I'm sorry, but you're already involved. This is a serious issue. We have a serious oil leak in the basement that needs to be taken care of, and Royce is telling you to shut up and to not say anything. You know, this is not okay. He says, well, I can't be involved. Anyway, an hour later, he leaves. This is the 29th of September. The days come, whatever. September 30th rolls around. At 8:25 in the morning, Royce's maintenance guy, official maintenance guy, criminally trespassed in my house. He opened my screen door and he walked into my house to serve me with eviction papers, okay? That was at 8:25 in the morning on the 30th. At 10:10 p.m. on the 30th, Albertian threatens me, okay? I'm so shaken out. I'm Skyping with Tim at the time. I'm so shaken out. I'm so afraid of being retaliated against again.
For bringing up the issue of the
For bringing up the issue of the oil leak. Well, because I got an eviction notice in the morning, and then 10 hours later, I got threatened with violence. Not only did I get threatened with violence, but I got threatened with future violence by somebody else. Jack says, I'll have someone else come and kick your ass. So not only do I have to worry about Jack, now I have to worry about every stranger who walks and knocks on my door.
He also threatened your daughter.
He also threatened my daughter, who was not there. But, so now I have to worry about him as well as his friends, okay?
Now, I understand you went to the courts to try and get a protection order?
Yes, I did.
And?
They denied it because he didn't see the cause. I did file a private criminal complaint pursuant to Title 17A, subsection 16, warrant arrest by private persons, citing Title 17A, subsection 209, criminal threatening, and subsection 210, terrorizing. My understanding from what Officer Guay said is because the statute is set up in such a way that an officer must hear firsthand the criminal threat in order to charge that person with 209.
If it's a misdemeanor crime, then we cannot arrest based on, we can summons arrest, but we can't physically arrest.
Right, and that was what Officer Guay was trying to explain to me that night. So when he filed his police report, or when we were talking for that 25 minutes, I said, I have, you know, this entire Skype conversation with my cousin where I was telling him what Jack was saying. Can I show it to you so you know exactly what I was saying at that time? He says, no, I don't want to see it. Well, in his report, he says that I asked if I could speak with Albertian. Guay said that I asked if I could speak. Let's see. Gina then showed me a printout of an online chat she was having with a friend, which she was telling her friend about the threats. I informed Gina that unless her friend was on the phone and at least heard something that was not relevant. Gina then asked if she could show the printout to Jack and tell him about it. I was surprised by this request and asked Gina if she was telling me she wanted to speak with Jack at this time face-to-face. Gina stated she was asking to speak with Jack and show him the printout. I told Gina that I did not think that was a good idea, as opposed to having them face-to-face at this time. I advised Gina not to have any further contact with Jack. Completely fabricated. That is completely untrue.
Have you spoken with Officer Gay about this?
No, I have not, because I don't feel comfortable. I honestly, to be completely frank with you, Sergeant, I don't feel safe. I do not feel protected at all. This was the first phone call that I made to the police department because of this gentleman, this Albertian guy.
Well, I understand, but if you're not happy with the report, you get in touch with the officer that wrote it and say, look, this is not true, this is what I said, and I need to know why it was written this way, but you need to get in touch with the officer that took the report originally.
This was the purpose for this affidavit. This affidavit was my rebuttal. I went through this entire report and I rebutted everything that he wrote. I had it notarized and signed, and I did send it on November 18th to Chief Gregoire. And I did say that this is to be part of the official record, that this is my rebuttal. This is a he said, she said because it wasn't recorded. He's going to say what he's going to say, and I'm going to say what I'm going to say.
And
he's going to say that Jack said whatever. Yeah. But the fact that he wrote this fabrication, this indicates, could call some friends that would come and take care of her. What does that indicate to you? That indicates violence, okay? That indicates violence. The fact that Jack admitted that he said that, number one. Number two, he has a right against self-incrimination. He has a strike against him already for criminal threatening prior to this report from 2007.
And I understand all this, but
And
what I'm saying, you need to get in touch with the officer that originally wrote this. You need to get in touch with Officer Gay and say, look, this is not what I stated. You need to correct this report, and I want it to go further.
I don't understand
It's
how to
not-
do that, though.
You just call and leave a message on his voicemail, asking him to return your call. He'll speak with you about this.
Well, the interesting thing is, Sergeant, is I did send this via mail to Chief Gregoire, and he never responded.
What I'm saying is, why do you have to go to the chief to get a report corrected by Officer Gay, who was the one that wrote it? Chief Gregoire wasn't there. He's not going to be able to correct this based on your conversation with Officer Gay.
I appreciate what you're saying, and I guess my position is the fact that Officer Gray indicated in his report that he had already created preconceived judgments about the nature of the entire call after speaking with me and before speaking with Oliverdian, okay? Gray spoke with me for 25 minutes before contacting Oliverdian. It was during the 25-minute conversation with me that he prejudged that this call was frivolous, okay? You can read it for yourself. He indicated to himself that the call was frivolous.
Well, I've
and
got
because
all
he-
this, but what I'm saying is you need to get in touch with Officer Gay in order to go over this report with him, because he was the one that was there speaking with you.
I appreciate what you're saying, but I don't feel that would be a useful, I don't feel it would be a useful meeting. I don't feel it would be useful because I don't believe that Officer Gray is going to admit that he made any kind of error, either willingly or
But you don't know that
unwillingly.
because you haven't talked to him.
But he wrote the report.
Then you need to speak with him in rebuttal to this. You can't, the chief's not going to be able to do that because he wasn't there for the conversation.
I appreciate that, and we'll deal with that another time. But this is just
Okay.
following, this is just
All right,
just
like I
setting-
said, the reason I'm here is because of your contact with Officer
With Officer
Bruin and
Cloutier.
Officer Cloutier.
Correct.
On the 18th.
Correct.
So I can't do anything about this.
I appreciate that, and I didn't expect you, I was not bringing this up in order to act on that.
Mhm.
I was bringing this up only to show you that.
History
The
behind it.
history behind it,
And-
just to
and-
set the stage.
And I understand that. And I
Okay.
know that you've been having problems with Mr. Albertian, okay?
Very much so.
And I know the problem that day was over plowing, who was doing the plowing, and some of that issue, and that you were taking pictures of him, and...
Correct.
And that's what I'm trying to get to.
Correct.
I mean, the officers went to him, he said that apparently that he was not happy with the fact that you were taking pictures of him
Correct.
from your apartment.
Correct.
And that the officers came to see you to say, hey, look, can you please stop taking the
Correct.
pictures? But in the same meeting there, they told him that it was not against the law for you to take pictures from a
Correct.
private residence, that there's nothing they could do about it, and all they could do is talk to you just to see if they could get you to stop doing it, just to stop irritating him,
Mhm.
just to try and alleviate the problem.
Mhm.
If there's no real need to take pictures, I mean, what are you taking pictures of?
Right.
That kind of thing.
Right.
So if there's no need to take pictures, then why take pictures just to get to it?
Right.
You know?
Right.
Because all it does is create a problem.
Right, which
And
is-
we just want the problem to stop.
I absolutely agree, which was
Right.
the reason that I explained to Officer Druin and Officer Cloutier the reason I was taking pictures. That was why I went into the explanation on the audio, because I appreciate that, and Mr. Kaysen has been in my apartment a number of times
Yeah.
where Mr. Oliverian has been terrorizing me with his music, and I don't retaliate. As a matter of fact, I'm just the opposite. I tiptoe around my apartment, I tiptoe up my...
Well, nobody should have to live like
But
that.
that's how I'm living.
But nobody should have to.
Agreed, but that's how I'm living, because the officers are not enforcing the quiet laws.
Well,
okay?
the thing is, when it comes to disorderly conduct, it has to go with what's reasonable or unreasonable, and it doesn't matter what time of day it is.
I appreciate that.
But you can understand also you live in an apartment with apparently very thin walls.
Yes, we do.
Okay, so
Yes.
at this point, why do you still live there?
Because it's an issue of principle now.
Well, see, then your principle, that's on you.
Well-
If you're still there just out of principle.
Well, no, it's
then-
not just out of principle. It's not just out of principle. It's a matter of, I have clean hands, okay?
Mhm.
Law of equity. I have clean hands. I have always had clean hands in
Okay.
this situation, okay? I have done nothing unlawful. I have done nothing criminal.
Okay.
Nor have I made any kind of civil violations. Getting back to January 18th.
Mhm.
Officer Druin started the conversation. He was very polite. As you notice, I didn't mention his name anywhere.
Right, you mentioned that, well, you did in your email to the chief.
Just that he had begun the conversation.
That he begun the conversation and that he had no problems with...
Not being able to see me.
Not being able to see you through the door.
Correct.
Now, was the screen door open at the time?
No.
It was closed the whole time?
Correct.
Okay.
I came down over my stairs. They're knocking on my door.
Okay.
I made them knock a second time before I went down because I didn't know who it was. So they knocked a second time. I came down over my stairs. I turned on my hall light, which also lighted up my entry outside, my inside entry at my main door. I opened my door, my storm door, my wood door, and I said, he said Augusta Police, and I said,
Yeah.
What for? At this time, the screen door was closed and latched.
Yeah.
The only door that was open was my wooden door, and I was standing with my left hand on the door jamb here.
Okay.
I had my recorder in my hand on the door jamb, and I had my other hand on my doorknob, and I was standing in my door like this. The screen door was closed. Now, the bottom pane is taken out of my screen door so my cats can come in and outside.
Okay.
That's why that's like that, okay? And behind me is a curtain that I have hanging in my stairwell to keep the cold air in my entry
Right,
and keep my warm air upstairs.
I'm just trying to visualize this. You've got your front door, but you have a small hallway?
Yes, a
It
very
goes to a set of stairs to go upstairs. So this house used to be a single family?
Correct.
That's been converted into two
Correct.
apartments? Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
That's correct. So I have a curtain hanging behind me, and I'm observing both officers eyeing my curtain behind me while I'm speaking.
Okay.
And so I'm giving them my explanation, and at the point when I start speaking about Jack's violence, Officer Cloutier reached out, turned the knob, and opened my screen door and said, "I can't see you." And I said, "Oh, okay." And then I continued to talk. He held the screen door open the entire time from that moment forward.
Okay.
Never closed it, never took his hand off it.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, he inched his way closer and closer and closer to my entrance as I was speaking. And then when he made his comment about, "Are you here home alone?" I said, "Yes." And he said, "So why am I smelling burnt marijuana coming from your apartment?" Well, it was at that moment that he changed the nature of the call. It was no longer a, "Can we help you? Can we help alleviate this difficulty between you and your neighbor?" It was now a, "What are you doing up there that I want to know about?"
Okay.
call. And it was at that moment that he turned aggressive. He got closer to my threshold. He continued to say what it was that he said on the recording. And I continued to stand where I stood. I did not move. I did not back up. I did not come closer. I never went outside into my porch. He claims that he is not subject to the 4th and 14th Amendments. He claims that he does not need a search warrant. He claimed that because he thought that he smelt burnt marijuana, he felt he then had the right to enter my home and search my home and to seize whatever he wanted to seize. And he felt like he had the right to intimidate me into allowing him to do that. But as we know, it didn't happen. That's not the way it ended up. I don't feel the need to go through and explain everything that happened when it was all caught on recording. But he opened my door, he intimidated me, he tried to coerce me into allowing him into my house. I answered the one question that I could answer for him, and that was, nobody is smoking marijuana in my house. There's not much else I can say, except for the fact that he did not have the right to do what he did, which is evidenced by the fact that he did not return with a search warrant, and he did not enter my house, despite the fact that he said he would.
You said he did not enter your house?
He did not enter beyond the he came over the threshold. He was standing in my entry, in my interior entryway, on the inside of my door. But he did not...
But you were standing there?
Right, but I'll show you this is the door. This is my entryway.
Okay.
This is a this is a step. This is a landing.
Okay.
okay? The door opens this way. It opens this way.
Curtain is right here.
And the curtain is right here.
Stairs.
The stairs
Oh,
goes
so
up
this is
like
the
this.
inside of the house.
This is the inside of the house. The officers were standing here, okay? This is my porch.
Okay, and the screen door opens
This
up
is the screen right
this
here.
way?
The screen opens up this way.
This way,
Correct.
right, okay.
Opens out onto the porch this way.
That way.
Yeah.
So,
Yes,
if-
from the left.
is it okay if I use this?
Yes, please.
Okay, so if this is your front door here, and this is like the outside where they were standing, the
Mhm.
officer's standing, and this is the inside of your house here, okay?
Correct.
Then your door opens this way, right?
Correct.
So it comes out this way. Okay.
Correct.
So Officer Druin was standing here.
Correct.
And Officer Cloutier was here.
Correct.
Okay.
And I was standing right here.
And you were here, okay?
Correct.
With your hand up on the door jamb,
Correct.
right?
Correct. And my door was only ajar like this much.
And you had your hand on the door?
Correct.
Okay. All right,
Correct.
so you're saying that Officer Cloutier moved forward, you opened up the door?
Yes.
Okay.
And then he stood there with the door
While the
in his
door was
hand.
open, so
Yes.
he was behind, he was now in front of the door?
Correct.
Okay. All right, and Officer Druin stayed here?
Yes.
Okay.
And Officer Druin released the interview to Officer Cloutier when Officer Cloutier opened the door. Officer Cloutier took over the interview when he opened the door. And Officer Druin backed off, and I don't believe Officer Druin said anything else beyond that point. It was Officer Cloutier who took control from that moment on. He inched his way forward, 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 and then he crossed over my threshold, and he came into my house and stood right there and tried to get me to let him up my stairs.
I know, but how did he get in here where you were right here?
He opened, this is the threshold, this is
Right.
my threshold. This is the interior of my house.
Right, but you said the door was only open a very little bit.
But he pushed his way in. I mean, he's a big man, he's bigger than me.
Mhm.
I was not going to try to physically stop him from coming into my house because I don't have the physical girth to do that.
No, I understand that.
Okay, and I was not going to put my hands on him in any way.
So then you're saying your inner door opened up more? then?
Yes, my door opened almost all the way. It came open almost all the way, and he's standing right here. And, well, this is my landing, this is the door, this is the porch. I was standing right here. He came in, and then we stood about right here with the door wide open. I did not step up on my landing or stand down here in the entryway, but I was still on the interior part of my house. And that was when we had the last minute and a half conversation. That was where we were standing, the last minute and a half. And that was when I told him he needed to leave. I don't know, I think I counted, when I last listened to it, 6 separate times that I commanded him to leave my property. And at least 3 times when he was inside my house and said, "You need to leave my house now."
Okay. Do you remember what Officer Cloutier said to you and all that?
He said, "No, I don't." He said, "You can either move or I can move you."
Okay.
And I said, "No, sir." I called him sir, I don't know, at least half a dozen times.
Okay.
I never put my hands on him. I was never rude. I never raised my voice. Again, Sergeant, I have clean hands, and I feel really bad because none of this should have happened. This incident should never have happened. None of these calls should have happened. I do intend, and I appreciate your position about Officer Guay, and I do intend to follow up, but I've been dealing with all this other mess. You know, this started it off, and it's just been a snowball ever since.
Right.
So I don't know what to do at this point. I'm at a loss, and to be completely frank with you, I've lost a lot of faith in the Augusta Police Department. A lot. I have next to no faith at
Okay.
all.
Now, did he ever swear at you?
Officer Cloutier? No,
Okay.
no. But he
So-
did lie to me, and he did say specifically, "I do not need a search warrant. I do not need your permission.
Okay.
I do have the right to come into your house." You know, again, I attest that the audio that I sent to Chief Gregoire is a raw, unedited audio of the
And
exact
that's one of the biggest
incident.
reasons I didn't meet with you in person, because with the technology they have today, we don't know how people can twist audio around and that type of thing.
Agreed.
I mean, I'm not the biggest computer savvy person in the world.
I'm not either.
I wouldn't know how to do something like that, but I know that it can be done.
Right.
Okay.
But you
so-
can also, even though that can be done, a forensic computer person can also show that the file has been manipulated. Every revision, every change to any electronic file has a date stamp and a time stamp of that revision. So if push came to shove for any reason, if necessary, I can provide that raw audio to a forensic computer person and prove that it has not been edited.
Okay.
I have not decided what I'm going to do about this yet. I'm waiting and just taking baby steps as things unfold.
I guess, and that would be my next question, is where do you want to go with this? What are you expecting out of this?
If we look at the role of the police department in its essential nature, its essential nature is to protect the rights of the people in the town. Okay, it's not to protect the governments or the corporations or the companies' financial interests. It's to protect the rights of and the property of the people in the town. I've not been protected. My rights have not been protected. My rights have been trampled and abused. I guess I would have to say that answer I'd have to table for right now. There's so much going on. I just got served again last night with an eviction notice that I now have to deal with on the 15th.
Okay.
Okay, which is another fraudulent notice. So I got a lot going on right now. But I do appreciate your immediate following up on this.
Sure.
I guess if I can make any suggestion, just follow your procedures and your protocols, do your internal investigation, come up with whatever conclusions you would normally come up with,
Okay.
and I will make my decision after I see what you've decided to do.
Okay.
Because at this point, I feel bad for these officers because they've gotten sucked into a situation that did not need to happen. If Royce Watson, the landlord and owner of this building,
Right.
had stepped up and done what he was supposed to do in the very beginning on September 1st and gotten this asshole out of my building, I wouldn't be sitting here right now.
Right.
And I wouldn't feel like a prisoner in my own home.
I think the only thing that I wish is that at the beginning that you would have contacted us, or at least Officer Gay, sooner than this in reference to this case. All right, it should never have gotten to this level. Okay, you shouldn't be as upset as you are.
No.
All right.
I can't even have my grandbaby to come over and visit or my daughter because I'm so scared. You know, this is not necessary. I'm not. This is not who I am. You know, and if you do any kind of SBI lookup on me, you know this is not who I am. I've been in this building since January 2010. Guys have never been there for me.
Right.
So I don't understand why my rights have been so blatantly trampled and ignored
Well,
when this Oliverdian gentleman obviously has a difficult background. But I'm not being protected.
well, we can't go by his background. We have to go with the contact that you're having with him now.
But background
Okay.
shows pattern of behavior.
But, you know, it's hard for, because when a police officer goes to a disorderly conduct complaint, we have to try and do the best we can to determine what is reasonable and unreasonable, okay? And we're talking besides this, any of the noise complaints that you've had, okay? Because from what it sounds like, it went from this to a bunch of noise complaints to what happened on the 18th.
Correct.
Okay?
Correct.
That's what I'm getting for a series of events here.
Yes.
Okay. In the very beginning, you should have gotten in touch with Officer Gay, but that's in the past now, there's nothing we can do about it. You can still get in touch with Officer Gay, and you can still do follow-up on this, okay? He can still try to correct this, if that's not what you said, okay? Did you fill out an affidavit in reference to this on that day?
On that day, well, I filed, the threat occurred at 10:10 on September 30th.
Mhm.
I filed the report on October 1st, the next day at 5 p.m.
Okay.
Officer Gay was very concerned about why it took me 19 hours to file the report. He was very focused on why it took me so long to file the report. Why didn't I call the night before? I explained to him why. Anyway, I had to wait for him to file his report, and then I had to request a copy of the report. And whoever handwriting that is from your department gave me a redacted copy.
That would be Lieutenant
Okay.
Reed.
Okay. Well, he had to redact the copy. Well, if you look,
Right.
why did Officer Gay put me as suspect number 2? That's my major concern. If you go through, if you have a moment, and in my affidavit, I rebutted.
He put both of you as suspect, both as victim.
I understand that.
As a mutual incident.
But that's not the way it was, because Jack Aliverdian never claimed to be a victim of any crime on that night. Nor was I ever accused of committing a crime. I was the one that called.
Right, but this is something that you filled out, right?
But what I'm saying is, this is Black's Law. Black's Law 9th edition defines suspect as a person believed to have committed a crime or offense.
Okay.
I was never believed to have committed any kind of crime on September 3rd. I called as the victim. I was the one who received the criminal threat. Officer Gay had no right to put my name as a suspect on this report.
Okay.
And I'm very upset about it.
Right, so you need to get in touch with Officer Gay in reference to
I
this.
intend to.
Okay. And I'm sure that he's going to want some kind of an affidavit written. I don't know if you want to
Which is exactly,
submit this
that's
with the
what that
report.
is, that's intended, that was the intent of this affidavit.
So do you want me to take this copy and give it to him and tell him that he needs to go over the report? Get in
Your
touch with
copies
you?
have already been filed.
So this is
my
already a
copy.
copy with the department?
Correct, you already
Okay,
have an
all right.
original copy with original signature.
know that.
Yes,
All right.
yes, and that's my copy also.
Okay, so do you want, Officer Gay's working today.
Uh-huh.
Would you like me to tell him that you need to get a phone call from him? Do you want me to relay a message for you?
Would you ask him, please, to reread his report and read my affidavit, and then give me a written statement about the contradictions between the two? And
I can't do that. I'm not going to have him.
I don't want to
write a
speak with him in
statement based on
person. I found him to be completely rude and disrespectful on the 30th. He discounted everything that I said. He had more of a concern about why it took me 19 hours to report a
that.
criminal
Well, the
threat.
only way that you're going to get any kind of resolve on this is to speak with Officer Gay personally.
Okay.
Whether it be over the phone or in person, Officer Gay is not going to harm you. He's not going to do anything that's going to put you over the edge as far as what's going on with this report.
I just don't trust him. I'm sorry.
The thing is, he's still a police officer, he's still bound to do his job, okay?
I appreciate what you're saying, and I don't discount what you're saying, and I'm not prepared to speak with Officer Gay right now. I've just got so much else going on.
All right, so this aside,
This aside,
the noise complaints.
yes.
Okay, we'll try to come to a conclusion on that. Whenever you have a complaint, you need to call us in reference to a noise complaint. We'll come over, we will decide whether it's reasonable or unreasonable, and then we'll take the appropriate action, which I believe is what has been done in the past. Some officers might feel that the noise is unreasonable, some might not feel that it's unreasonable.
Well,
Okay?
the outcome of all of the police calls so far, all of the officers have deemed it reasonable because it's continued. It's never stopped. None of the officers have told him to stop. None of them. Even Officer Whitten. Officer Whitten asked me, he says, this is unreasonable.
Mhm.
He says, I can poke the nest for you if you want.
Mhm.
I can go down and tell him to turn it off if you want me to.
Okay.
I said, you know what? Just leave it alone right now.
But when you say that, and the officer doesn't go down and tell him, look, your noise level's too loud, then...
He tried knocking on Albertian's door twice.
Okay.
And the noise, the music was so loud, and Albertian had his vacuum cleaner on, and Whitten couldn't get through.
Okay.
Okay? Albertian never opened the door.
So he
to
went
Officer
down
Whitten.
even though you asked him not to?
Well, he went down to go down first. I think he stopped. I saw Officer Whitten pull into my driveway, and I opened my living room window, and I pointed, that's his entrance down there. So Officer Whitten went to knock on his door before he came to see me. That's what happened. He went and knocked on the door before he came to see me, and the vacuum cleaner was going, and the music was rocking and rolling, and he couldn't get Jack's attention. Then he came upstairs.
Okay.
And then we talked. for extended period of time.
Okay.
And that was after about a 15-minute conversation with Officer Whitten. He said, do you want me to go back downstairs and poke the nest? Or do you want me to just, leave him just...
But the music stopped at that point, to the point where he couldn't make contact with them.
It got lowered a little bit.
Okay.
But again, because of the nature of the house, it was still intruding in my peace.
Are you aware of the disorderly conduct house ordinance that the city has?
I can't say yes, I am, but I have to say that when I went to the courthouse on December 9th to try to get the protection order, and when I was denied, the court clerk gave me a piece of paper and told me to give it to one of your officers to serve as a disorderly conduct cease and desist.
Okay.
I attempted to give that off to Eric Lloyd.
Okay.
He refused to serve it. He said if this was a legitimate order, the judge would have signed it. And I looked at the paper, there is no place for a judge to sign it. The order is to be signed by a sheriff or a police officer. There is no place for a judge.
Augusta has their own trespass harassment notices?
No, I wasn't aware of that.
Okay, we do. And that's usually what the court likes to see ahead of time.
Okay.
They like to see that you are making a complaint of harassment against your neighbor, okay? We will go over and we will serve him with a trespass harassment notice, okay? Just lets him know that, it's more of a written notice to let him know that we verbally notified him, okay? It's just so we have something on paper to say that we verbally notified him to stop the harassment.
Okay.
It lets him know, it states the title and section on there, states that they can't do any action to harass or torment or threaten you, that they cannot contact you by phone.
How does that apply to music, though? I mean, because...
Well, that's the whole harassment, torment, threaten type thing, okay? And then if you call back and say, look, it's still ongoing, then we can summons him for harassment. Okay, and that's what the courts like to see before they issue a harassment notice. And that's probably what happened. Well, because if you go to the courts and you say, look, I want to do this harassment notice, they'll ask you, have you gone to the police department first? And have they taken the appropriate action first? Because then the courts won't, and that's probably what happened, is they won't issue you a harassment notice until you've done that first. Okay, so...
One of the previous service calls, like 2 or 3 or 4 prior, one of your officers, forget the gentleman's name, when he explained to me that, yes, the noise is loud, yes, the music is loud, but it's because of the makeup of the building. And I said, I agree with you. This is a landlord issue. I agree with you that this is a landlord issue, but the landlord's refusing to intervene. Is there some statute, ordinance, is there something that can compel the landlord to do something?
There is, and this is what I was explaining to you. It's called the disorderly house. It's an ordinance we have within the city. Yeah, disorderly house. If you call a complaint of a disorderly situation, have the officers come over, they deem that it's unnecessary, they go warn him for a disorderly noise, then that gets held on file. Every call that comes into the police department gets held on file. It's called a call number. If we don't take action with a report, we write a call narrative in there as to, disorderly conduct. We warned Mr. Albertian for loud noise. It was unreasonable at the time. His music was too loud. He did turn it down at that, whatever the case may be. If we have 8 occurrences within a 1-month time span, then the owner gets cited with a disorderly house. And then the owner, from there, needs to choose the action he's going to take against that person. The owner actually gets fined. So that's the disorderly house ordinance that the city has.
The same landlord is the one that 23 Drew Street.
Yes, very familiar with 23 Drew Street.
Yes, we are. Yes.
So.
Same landlord.
Yeah.
So we have an idea what's going on now.
Well, the thing is, when you tell the officer at that point, don't stir up the nest now, don't go, well, then the warning's never given, and then we don't have a leg to stand on.
I appreciate that, and I have tried, well, I have at least 24 audio recordings of loud music that I have not reported. And I've not reported it as a direct result of my experiences from when I did report it. And from when Officer Carly Smith, Officer Donald Whitten, Officer Eric Lloyd, you know, all the other officers who have responded have acknowledged, yes, it's loud. Yes, that disturbed me too.
Right.
No, I can't do anything about it. No, I
Does-
can't tell him to turn it down.
Is there a point where he turns it down before the officer gets there?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, have you ever told the dispatch center, look, you need to park down the road and walk up
And they
because he
ignored
sees
it.
it coming up?
That was on there. Donald Whitten actually suggested that.
Okay.
Because he said, he says, what do you want me to do? And I said, you know, let's just leave it alone. He says, all right. He says, if it happens again, he says, because he says, I've been dealing with these people for like 10 years, he says, Gina. He says, I understand how they operate. He says, you can turn the cold water on when you take a shower, you know, you can do all kinds of things. I said, yeah, you're right. He says, if you call us again, tell dispatch to have the car park on Haskell Street.
Right.
Or to have the car park on the other side of the tree line.
Mhm.
I said, okay, I did that. The
Okay.
very next phone call I made to the police department, I did that. They ignored me. The police car pulled right into the friggin' parking lot. Right into my parking lot.
Noise level drop?
Ah!
Okay.
It's like, does anything that I say mean anything? Because my experience and my observations, I mean, I'm a very reasonable person. I mean, I've been trying to be reasonable.
Mhm.
And my experiences are showing me that it doesn't matter what I do, doesn't matter what I say, because he's allowed to continue, and he's been told that he's allowed to continue, and I hear him laughing at me downstairs. Now, all of this is moot at this point now because he's moving out.
He's moving out.
Yep, he's moving out. He's done. He's sick and tired of this shit. Excuse my French. And this is what he's saying to his friends on the phone,
Okay.
I don't even have to put on anything to hear him. I just turn my music down, I just walk around my apartment, I can listen to him talk. He's sick and tired of the landlord. He's got bugs all through his apartment that the landlord refuses to take care of, and he's tired of the landlord not taking care of the bitch upstairs. Okay, he's moving out. He wants to be out at the end of this month, but the place that he's going to isn't available yet because they're trying to evict someone else. So his moving is contingent on this other person.
But you said that you received an eviction notice.
I have received an eviction
What
notice.
was the reason behind your eviction notice?
Non-payment of rent
Okay.
and termination of an at-will lease, no cause.
So you're not on a lease right now?
At-will lease. An at-will lease means I'm there at the will of the landlord, and if the landlord no longer wills me to be there, I have to leave. I have no protection as an at-will tenant. Okay, this landlord does all of his leases as at-will, because he wants to get them out when he wants to get them out. This second summons that I just got last night is the second one because the first one was fraudulent. The first one was fraudulent because he said he served it to me twice, or tried to serve it twice before it was even created. The notice is dated September 30th. He says he tried to serve it twice on the 29th. So when I went to court and showed the court, I said, look, how can this be valid? He said he tried to serve it twice before he even wrote the damn thing up. Oh, yeah. So now I've got a second one. Well, this all came as a result of me and Tim finding the oil leak in the basement. I was current on my rent on September 30th.
Vermin issue as well.
Vermin issues as well.
This is a bug shot of the order?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They look like fleas, I don't know what they are, but anyway, so Jack's moving out.
Okay.
So I'm just biding my time.
Okay.
All right, I want to stay in this house. It's a great place, it's a great little place, it's convenient. I mean, it's, you know, I can't afford anything else. I can't afford to move, you know? And I bought this place specifically because I could afford it and because it's close to town. It's good, what I need. So Jack's leaving. But unfortunately, Sergeant Shaw, we're sitting here now.
Right.
And it should never have happened. And I feel bad for Officer Cloutier, and I feel bad for all the other officers, because none of this should have happened.
Right.
And I don't know how to resolve it at this point.
We've got the IA going on, okay?
Okay.
We've heard the tape.
Okay.
We know what's on there, okay? I'm personally not happy with some of the things that Officer Cloutier said.
Okay.
Okay. But I guess my bigger concern is that did he ever violate your civil rights and cross that threshold, and did he leave when he was told to leave? And like I said, that's why I needed to meet with you here today.
Okay.
Okay, because we're going to continue with the investigation. We're going to make a determination, but I also want to know from you what it is that you're actually expecting out of this.
I do not want to be, excuse my French, a hard ass. I'm not that kind of a person.
Okay.
I'm not in this to cause hurt. I'm not in this to injure anybody, okay? And I actually really do feel badly for Officer Cloutier. 'Cause this should never happen. He needs to apologize, at the very, very least. Other sanctions, I don't know. I haven't even given it that much thought yet, but I don't have evil intent. I don't have malicious intent against Officer Cloutier. I don't appreciate the approach that he used, especially considering my approach. I think the best I can do right now is just table my thoughts until everything just kind of, time changes everything.
Okay. Well, I know you're dealing with the eviction process right now, and
I'm dealing with a lot.
you've got a lot on your plate.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But I do thank you very much. Just let me know what you want to do, what you decide that you're going to do, and I'll just table my thoughts until then.
Okay.
But I'm not a malicious person, and I don't have intent to cause him any kind of injury, okay? But the world is changing, and it's moving in the direction of we are all one. We are, we are responsible for each other as well as ourselves, and we need to take care of each other. We can't be injuring other people because we've been told to, or because we think we have the right to. Because what comes around does go around, and it's just not the way the world is going to work anymore, I want to have peaceful relations. I want to be able to live in my town. I've been in this town my entire life. Obviously, I come back. I want to be happy here, and
Right.
I want to know that if I call for help, I don't ask for help unless I need it. Never have.
Right.
And I've not gotten it. And as a matter of fact, the tables got turned on me. And that just needs to not happen again.
Okay.
Okay? So I'll just wait to hear from you.
Yeah, and it suggests maybe in the future that if you have any problems with the department, and if you want, you can call me directly,
Okay.
okay? I'll leave you my number and my extension.
Please, if you would.
Number to the department, okay.
The only phone I have is a cheap government phone. I get like 60 minutes a month, so email is my best contact.
Yeah, and you have my email though, right?
I believe I do, and if I don't, I can find it on the website.
Okay.
Very good.
Right there. This way, in the future, if you feel like you're not happy with a call that an officer responded to, noise complaints, anything of that nature, I can make contact with me, okay?
Okay.
We work 4 days on and 3 days off,
Okay.
okay? Right now, my days off are Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Okay? Those are my days off right now, but we just went into a rotation. Every 4 weeks, we rotate a day forward. So in 4 more weeks, my days off will be Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, so on and so on. So my first day on, I always check my voicemails. I always check my email. Matter of fact, I get my email right on my phone.
And what's your hours?
My hours noon to 10 o'clock at night.
Noon to 10 p.m. Okay. Okay.
And I-
What is the shift change from day to evening?
We have overlaps of, the day shift works from 7 to 5,
Uh-huh.
okay, because they're all 10 hours.
Okay.
The evening shift runs from 2:30 to 12:30.
2:30 to midnight 30.
Midnight 30, yep.
I like that. Okay.
Okay. And then the actual night shift, that's the evening shift.
That's the evening shift,
Yeah.
okay.
And the
That's-
actual night shift works from 9:30 at night to 7:30 in the morning.
So they overlap a couple hours.
They overlap more in the evening because of the activity levels that we have in the evening.
Okay.
Okay, so it's from 9:30 to 12:30 is when we have that big overlap.
Okay.
And then it only overlaps that half of an hour in the morning from 7 to 7:30, just because there's not a lot of activity going on in the morning. People
Right.
going to work, might be an influx in accidents or whatnot,
Right.
but those are our shifts. So if you're unhappy with the situation, give me a call, give me an email. I will get on my first day when I come back, I'll get in touch with you, we can go over the situation.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
Maybe I can talk to the officer and find out more from
Okay.
the officer what happened at that call. I can definitely put out an email letting the officers know that they need to park away from your residence when it comes to a noise complaint. Although I know Mr. Alvernian is now moving out.
Yeah.
I'm just finding out that now.
Yeah.
When is he due to go?
His expectation is the end of February, but,
End of February, so another month.
yeah, that's his expectation, but he's waiting for someone else to get evicted. It was supposed to be the end of this month.
Okay.
So his moving, he's actively packing downstairs. That's all he's doing right now. He says, I'm just packing, I'm just behaving myself, just being my...
Have you spoken to him lately?
I don't speak to the man.
You don't?
No.
Okay.
I make a point of not speaking with him.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, I moved the location of my mailbox. I moved it off of his porch.
Right.
Because it was on his porch. I moved it off of his porch and secured it onto my railing so I don't have to go near him.
Okay.
And so I don't have to speak with him. Because I was feeling intimidated. I wouldn't even go outside to check my mail because he comes out at the same time.
Right.
You know, check his mail. Well, then we're interacting and all shit breaks loose. And so I took it and I put it on my mailbox. Well, the postmaster has an issue with it now because I moved my mailbox.
Okay.
Jesus.
It's only a matter of like 5 or 6 feet.
So I don't have contact with Mr. Aliberti, and I make a point of not having contact with him. And for about 2 or 3 months, I was bringing my recorder with me every time I went outside just to catch on audio what he was doing to threaten me.
Right.
So I have a lot of audio recordings of my interactions with a lot of people around the situation.
Okay.
But no, I stay in my house, I tiptoe around with my sock feet, keep my music low, you know, I try not to bang things too much. I tell Tim, please tiptoe up the stairs, please don't bang the door.
As quiet as possible.
Right.
Not squeaky old houses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm doing the exact opposite of what he's doing. He's downstairs living up La Vida Loca, doing all whatever he wants to do, knowing that he's terrorizing the hell out of me. I'm upstairs like this.
Right.
You've heard Eminem music, right?
No, I don't like him.
Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
Okay? Seriously.
Right.
For 2 hours. Boom, boom, boom. I'm like this.
Yeah, you should call us at that.
I have.
I wouldn't
Water on
put
the
up
table.
with that.
Carly Simon stood right in my house. Boom, boom, boom. I said, Carly, do you feel the vibration in the floor? She says, no, my soles are too thick. I said, you're kidding me. I was in bare feet. She said, you're in bare
Really?
feet, Gene. I said,
Oh.
yeah, I know I'm in bare feet, but you can't feel the vibration around. She said, yeah, I can feel it. But it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It's not unreasonable. Are you kidding me?
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's where I'm at.
All right, I'll put an email out to the officers trying to knock down on this noise thing. Hopefully there's no more noise coming from there.
Since I filed, see, I served Jack with a criminal complaint.
Okay.
Harry served him back in December with a criminal complaint. That's pending. It's scheduled for trial on February 2nd.
Okay.
Since he got served with that criminal complaint, he's calmed down. He's really calmed down because I know my stuff.
Right.
And I know how to write a complaint. I used to work for lawyers. I've been working for lawyers 25 years. I am not a lawyer, but I know how to do it. And he's scared shitless because he knows he's got nowhere to run. He knows he's threatened me. He knows he's been terrorizing me with his music.
Right.
He knows I have witnesses. He knows I have recordings, and he knows he's screwed. So he's calmed down because he doesn't want me to have any more evidence against him. But every time he turns his music on, he just did it the other day. Tim came over. Place was quiet. Tim brought me a set of speakers because when Jack does turn his music on, I have no defense, right? Either I leave my house or I have to deal with it. Well, Tim brought me a system that has a bass box. Well, I put the bass on the floor just to move things around. I plugged the speakers in, and went boom!
Right.
Oh, shit! And I'm like, oh, shit,
Hadn't
shit,
adjusted the
shit.
volume yet.
Right?
Right,
I'm
right.
like, oh, shit. Trying to turn it off, right, real quick. all it took. He turned his music right up. And we sat there for 55 minutes on Sergeant's shop. Tim and I sat there for 55 minutes. Boom, 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 boom. It's like, you know what? I need to get out of here.
How old is he? How very-
58.
He listens to Eminem?
58. And he listens to Eminem. I used to listen to Eminem a few years ago when I was pissed off too. All right? I used to be pissed off too. I learned how to find peace. He needs to learn how to find some peace. Because he's driving me up a freaking wall. Thank you again,
You're
very
welcome.
much for your
It's
time.
nice to meet you.
Thank
Okay.
you. Very much.
Like I said, anytime, okay? Call me or send me an email.
Okay.
Bathroom clear, elevator's down here.
You too. The time is 3:10, Wednesday, January 25th. Over and out. As soon as I can figure out how to turn this on.